Whew. It's been a long time. But I'm back. More 365. I'm back here talking more wrestling. Whew, who knew, having so many different podcasts that I do, that the one that probably is my biggest passion and the one that basically is my solo show would be the one that constantly got put to the wayside. But I'm back here. We're talking more wrestling in a very, very weird time that we're living right now, with these quarantines, with COVID-19 running rampant, brother. It just kind of made me want to come back onto the airwaves here, to kind of give you some updates, let you know where I'm at, let you know where things are, in the ever constantly changing world of my life and in, professional wrestling, sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it. Remember, on this show, it is pro wrestling. It is sports entertainment. And we're going to look to the light and we're going to try and see the best in these shows. No matter how good or how bad they may seem to be. It's still pro wrestling. It's still sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it. It's still the passion that I have all my life, being almost 40. Remembering, I think the first show I remember watching, my uncle had a tape. He used to get tapes, the old MSG shows. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, it was Hogan versus Kamala. And then that's kind of... And it's funny, because actually when I was little, here's what's funny. I don't know if I've ever said this to anybody, let alone on the podcast about wrestling. Like my first go around, the first time I watched wrestling, actually when my uncle tried to get me into watching WWE back in the day, back in the 80s, I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it at all. I remember being like, what, this isn't, what is this? This isn't real. That's ketchup. It's not blood. And I was little. And I remember saying that. And my uncle Matt, to his credit, he sold it. I mean, he worked kayfabe and he sold it to me to the point where I was in lock, stock, and barrel. And from that moment on, probably my earliest memory of asking to go to a show, not realizing the, how massive the show was, let alone the time frame. If my parents even wanted to bring me to the show, they couldn't, because for like a week before, I remember asking for tickets for WrestleMania 3. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. That was in Detroit, Michigan. So, and this was 1987. So none of that was happening in a week's time. But it wouldn't be years later, a few years later, probably early 90s, 90 or 91, when I finally went to my first house show, my first wrestling show, and then my first pay-per-view, WrestleMania 10, Madison Square Garden, and the rest is history. But we're here right now, 2020, and I'm just a couple of weeks away from my 40th birthday. Good God, what the hell? Where did time go? I have no idea. The big 4-0, nevertheless, I had things planned. I was ready to go. April 5th, Raymond James Stadium, WrestleMania 36. I was going to have the big live Talking More Wrestling podcast / WrestleMania 36 party / my birthday. Well, that went the wayside. Due to recent situations with social distancing and COVID-19, coronavirus, whatever you want to call it, that party was canceled. Both my decision and the decision of the place where I was actually having the party. So it was kind of 50-50. 60-40. So that happened. And then it was kind of up in the air whether or not WrestleMania was even going to happen, period. I mean, Raymond James Stadium, this is where the Bucks play. The future home of Tom Brady. And then WWE, well, first of all right, let's step back for a second. I mean, everyone, at this point, everyone knows I'm not breaking news, and there's no spoilers here. This is a spoiler-free zone. Anything I say is just my own speculation from watching for almost 40 years of professional wrestling. You know what? Just watching that long, everything becomes a spoiler in your own head. I mean, we can all, for the most part, figure out what's going to happen next. But that's good. That's what makes us fun. And I love that, because then when something happens in WWE, NXT, AEW, New Japan, Ring of Honor, wherever, when something happens that is out of the blue that you had no idea was going to happen, that constantly, that feeling of being kayfabe, being tricked, and the swerve happening, that's what constantly ignites that flame in me and that passion for professional wrestling, for sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it. So let's bring it back. The whole thing happens with the coronavirus outbreak. NFL shuts down, not NFL, NHL shuts down, NBA shuts down, XFL, I had 3 games to go. Those shut down. So now everyone's like, oh, what's going to happen with WrestleMania? And this was before the big quarantine and self-quarantine, and before the social distancing and the, not allowing for large crowds and stuff. Because really, after the outbreak happened, even though they never really announced it, you got to believe NXT broadcasting from the PC for the first time with an audience was probably either Full Sail, maybe getting things cleaned over there in Full Sail. Could have been completely unrelated, and they were planning this anyway. Who knows? But with WWE broadcasting from the PC, it did show, that a show can go on in the PC with a small audience. And then Smackdown that week happens from the PC with no audience, because now things are starting to kick in a little bit more with COVID-19, with social distancing and everything like that. And then that first show with no audience was very weird to watch. I've been in small audiences. I've been to wrestling. I've been to indie shows that, there was so little of an audience that we started actually probably working the door at that point. So I've seen that, and I've seen there's like 2 or 3 empty arena matches. You got Lawler and Funk. You have The Rock and Mankind from Halftime Heat. And I'm pretty sure there was one other, and there's been a couple like with the indies and stuff like that. So, but it was lively. That first Smackdown was very lively. Triple H and Michael Cole almost seemed like they had just full reign of do whatever you want. Just have fun. But that's kind of the idea. For the wrestlers, to have fun. The opening contest was Sasha Banks and Bayley against Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss. And you can see, with them, the athletes definitely are in a different world. You see them coming out, trying to play to the crowd still. That's just got to be instinct. I don't care what anyone says. Oh, they're still playing to a crowd of nobody. You know what? You do that all your life, and then you're thrown into the situation. Of course, it's just like, it's instinct. You're going to do it, but whatever. But I think they put the show on very well. They did some filler by re-showing the Elimination Chamber title match from a couple weeks ago, which is fine. Tag title match, that is fine. They got to do what WWE's got to do what they got to do. And then, of course, I remember I was in a chat with my friends, and I asked, I wonder if when they go to commercial, because there's no audience, and obviously everyone there knows what's happening in the PC, I'm like, I wonder if they just stop wrestling. Because it wouldn't make sense for them to continue wrestling constantly through the commercial break if there's no audience. And of course, it came out later, like some international feed that happens, where they somehow still get the feed even during commercials, show that they stop wrestling. Makes total sense to me. I don't blame them for doing that. I'm pretty sure AEW did the same thing. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I gotta believe that. But I'll get to that in a moment. So Smackdown happens. Great show for what it's worth. Very odd to watch, but worth it. Then Raw is emanating from the PC. So for now, it looks like they're going to be doing everything from the PC for now. So Raw is a 3-hour show. That's tough to do with no audience. And So what they did again for filler, which I still think is a smart move on WWE's part, considering the situation that everybody is in. Because still watching a match is watching a match, but when there's no crowd reaction, it's tough to watch. Again, we've all been watching wrestling where we all see that crowd reaction. And I don't want to hear, well, in Japan, everyone's quiet anyway. Yeah, but not during the entire match. You still get the oohs, the ahs, the claps. Well, nowadays they're getting a bit westernized, and they do cheer a little bit more during matches. But, you know, like back in the day, you can hear a pin drop, but not throughout the entire match. Plus, you're still working off of emotions. Even by someone looking at you, you're still working off of an emotion. So Raw happens, and they squeeze 2 hours out of re-showing the 1 hour, basically, Men's Royal Rumble, the one that Drew McIntyre won. Again, perfectly fine with that. Raw only had one match, Andrade versus Rey, which was entertaining, extremely entertaining. But again, no audience. Then Austin comes out, you know, the Undertaker and AJ situation. Austin comes out, does that thing with Byron. All right, that's fine. Again, I'm not... You know, I was entertained. I found it fun. I just, in my head, I was just imagining if they did that 3:16 countdown, that the audience would be booing them. But, you know, be that as it may, you know, again, they're working with what they're dealt with. And then it was announced that WrestleMania 36 will not emanate from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida, but will emanate from the Performance Center in Orlando to a crowd of 0. I was at AT&T Stadium for WrestleMania 32. 32 or 31? 30 was New Orleans. 31 would have been Orlando, right? 32 was Dallas. 33. Oh. Yeah, I think it was 32. Right? Because, hold on. All right. So, WrestleMania 30 was, and I'm not trying to look this up right now. WrestleMania 30 was New Orleans. WrestleMania 30, oh, okay, yeah. WrestleMania 31, Orlando. 32, Dallas. 33. Wait a minute. Because 35 was New York. 34 was New Orleans again. 31 and 33. I'm going to have to look this up now. Oh, this is bugging me. Why can't I remember where those WrestleManias were? That is WrestleMania 31. Levi Stadium. That's right. I forgot. Okay. I thought 33 was was Orlando. All right. Sorry, that 31 was the first one I missed in a long time. That's why I forgot about that. All right. Well, in any event, so I was at WrestleMania 32. I was at AT&T Stadium in Dallas. Over 100,000 people there, and you felt it. And now there's going to be a WrestleMania of 0 people. It's going to be weird. And to jump ahead just a little bit, they just announced that actually, and again, I already hear people saying, oh, well, you know, New Japan did it, so WWE's ripping them off and everything. Shut up. WrestleMania 36 will be a 2-night event. April 4th and April 5th, both starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. And both being from the PC. In my opinion, because before this whole COVID-19 thing broke out, it was going to be the Hall of Fame Thursday, Smackdown Friday, TakeOver Saturday, WrestleMania Sunday, Raw Monday. So, and also, I like to not report anything until I see it on WWE.com. They stopped mentioning TakeOver for now. They're still introducing people for the Hall of Fame. The Bulldogs going in, Jushin Thunder Liger's going in, which is fantastic, amongst others. And I did see a tweet. I'll only mention this because I really don't think it is kind of from a source. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's rumor, but Georgia Smith, the British Bulldog's daughter, she went on Twitter saying that she spoke with WWE. Now, her father is going into the Hall of Fame. Most likely her, probably, and her brother, Davey Boy Smith Jr., would have been the inductees for the Bulldog. So, she's got to know what's going on as well, plan-wise. And supposedly she said, which to her, she made a good point in it, that most likely they're going to move the Hall of Fame this year to SummerSlam weekend. And then she said, actually, that would make more sense for her father, for the British Bulldog, because of that epic match in Wembley at SummerSlam. So it almost makes sense for him. And kind of for Jushin Thunder Liger as well, because his only WWE match was TakeOver Brooklyn, which was SummerSlam weekend. But, you can read into that how you'd like. So anyway, WrestleMania, 2-night event. People probably complaining, oh, they're ripping off New Japan. Do you want to watch a 5+ hour? I'm sure there's no pre-show. A 5+ hour WrestleMania, or let alone anything, with zero audience, with no crowd reaction? I wouldn't. I think it's a lot smarter to break down WrestleMania into a 2-night event. I mean, even if both nights are still 3 hours, just make them each. Right now, there's 8 matches that are confirmed. Because of the situation, I don't think we're going to get any new matches. And I don't think the Battle Royals haven't been announced. They weren't even announced before COVID-19 hit. But in any event, Battle Royals weren't announced. Some other matches, like some of the smaller matches, I think they're just going to try and limit it to what's already being advertised. Just do 4 matches each night. I don't even, you know what? I didn't look into it. I don't know if there's like 4 Raw matches, 4 Smackdown matches. You can do that. Main event one night with the Universal title match, main event the other night with the WWE title. But we'll see. But it's still going to be different. It's going to be unique. It's going to be odd. And then let's just move a little bit forward. So we had Smackdown and Raw at the PC empty arena. Now let's go to the first night where NXT and AEW are going to be performing after this quarantine, this social distancing kicked in. And both shows put on 2 completely different products, but both, in my opinion, nailed it for themselves. NXT for the 2 hours pretty much did retrospect, did almost like an hour and 15 minutes, I think. Retrospect on Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, the hottest feud happening right now in NXT, let alone professional wrestling. And it went on for a while, but they detailed the history of these two from their tryouts, from the Cruiserweight Classic, DIY, title run. There was that epic trio of matches that they had at takeovers, New Orleans, New York, and the one somewhere in the middle, Chicago, I think it was. Yeah, Chicago, New Orleans, Chicago, and Brooklyn, which I was there for 2 of the 3 of those. I did not see the Chicago one. And then they went into a bit of a history with Finn Balor, his starting in NXT, moving to Raw, getting hurt, unfortunately floundering there, not really being used properly, but then coming back to NXT. And then they interviewed Rhea Ripley about her epic match at WrestleMania. Keep this in mind, people. Just because WrestleMania is at the PC, and just because there's going to be no audience there, does not mean this is not a WrestleMania. This is still the biggest show of the year for WWE. And it's still the biggest show for a lot of the superstars that are going to be participating that evening. So don't think any less of this year's WrestleMania than you have before, because it is still the showcase of the Immortals, and we're still going to get some epic matches from that nights, actually. So NXT, and probably in a way because there is no audience, they've already done 2 shows with no audience, and they're going to be going into WrestleMania with no audience. You know what? I'm fine with a retrospect that NXT did. They did perfect with it. It was fine. Did what it needed to do. Plus, Orlando, I don't know what the rules are in Florida. I'm in New York. The governor here in New York shut down the bars, the restaurants, as far as dining in, sitting, like you can do takeout and stuff. But really just any social gatherings, no sports events, all concerts canceled, all of this. Ring of Honor canceled all their shows through the end of May, which I think is a little too long, but whatever. New Japan canceled their shows, I think, through March as of right now. So, I had a couple of concerts I was going to go to, a couple comedy shows that all got canceled in the New York, New Jersey area. I don't know how strict that is in Florida, but nevertheless, WWE is using their own facility to broadcast out of. Smart. No audience. We will deal with that. We have no choice. So the retrospect is fine. AEW, and I'm actually watching as we speak. I'm kind of watching AEW right now, a day later, but AEW originally was moving all their shows from their original venues to, what's it called? Daly's Plaza down in Jacksonville. And they were going to have a limited audience, but when things kicked in, they're actually performing with no audience to a degree. Now, they're in Daly's Place, whatever it's called. It's a big amphitheater, huge amphitheater. That's owned by Tony Khan. So we have the WWE Performance Center, which is really a training facility. That's ultimately what it is. But they do have the capability of running a show out of it, which WWE showed they can do. But they own the PC. They run it. They have full control over it. It's a very small event. Again, it's a giant gym for all intents and purposes. AEW, it's technically still in an arena. They're in an amphitheater. It's empty. Don't get me wrong. There's no fans, but it's owned by Tony Khan. So the atmosphere for Dynamite without an audience was completely different than the PC because they're outside, technically. It's a bigger venue, so you still get those echoes and everything. You can still do the pyro because they're still putting on the show. And then what AEW did, which I'll give them credit to what I think WWE should have done, is AEW had their wrestlers, a few of them, in the audience, just yelling, screaming, doing their shticks, which I think that worked out well. I think actually it would work better in the PC. So, but that's what AEW did. Again, maybe the rules are different. Maybe the law changed by the time we got to Dynamite, where you were allowed to have a little more people in a confined area. Just throw the New Day. So I saw someone put the New Day in the audience during WrestleMania. I think that would work out tremendously. So, Tony Khan owns an arena that was empty, but AEW put on basically a full show without an audience. WWE owns a performance center, which is fine. Never really intended to have shows televised from there, but push comes to shove, they had to do it. In this weird time that we're in, I really don't think there is any bad wrestling. When you're pushed back against the wall, you're going to make creative decisions. And that's what both these companies, that's what everybody's doing. Whether it's canceling the shows, putting them on in an empty arena. I know GCW is putting on a couple of shows in an empty arena for their debut on IWTV. So, how can I put this? For those of you out there who are more critical than normal to which I don't get. If you're so critical to something, why do you watch it? It drives me nuts. What's great about not having an audience is you don't get the unnecessary CM Punk chants. You don't get the boring chants. You don't get those chants that have like Rusev Day when Rusev isn't even on the card. And no offense to Rusev. Those are chants for an audience just to be jerks. And really, to me, it has no place. Obviously, cheers and boos, yes. And if you see something not go your way, all right, you can boo them. But to be, just be a jerk about it, I don't think so. At WrestleMania, for anyone who's going to win a title, yeah, we're not going to get the chorus of boos, as CM Punk tweeted, if Roman wins the championship. But at the same time, we're not going to get a roaring cheers if Drew McIntyre wins the title. So it's a weird time we're in. Just enjoy the shows for the sake of enjoying them. And if you think the product is dumb, don't watch it. I don't care. If you're not a WWE fan, don't watch it. It's okay. If you're not an AEW fan, don't watch it. It's okay. If you love both, watch them. It's okay. So we need to stick through this together because we still need to be entertained as people, as humans. And that's what professional wrestling is doing for those who can. AEW and WWE, they have a much bigger budget. They can do it. Ring of Honor and the Indies, Impact, canceled all their stuff. WrestleCon, that whole weekend is gone. So still go out there and support. In this day and age, that's going to mean if you weren't going to maybe buy a t-shirt normally for the indie guys, buy a t-shirt this time around. Go to, they have the 1 hour tees, pro wrestling tees, AEW shop, WWE shop, Ring of Honor shop, whatever, New Japan, buy a t-shirt, maybe where you wouldn't have. And that goes for even local businesses. These small businesses that are suffering now because of this COVID-19, definitely keep them in your mind. With the restaurants and everything, use those apps, Grubhub, Seamless, Slice. A lot of them are starting to do free delivery because the food is fine. This isn't like Hurricane Sandy that came in and destroyed stuff. This is just a annoying virus that's impeaching all of our lives in the meantime. But the food is fine. So order that food from those local restaurants, from those local mom and pop places. Keep supporting them. And you know what? If you can't, or if you don't want to, but you still like the establishment, and once all this blows over, you'll be back, buy gift cards. Buy gift cards to those restaurants. Buy gift cards to those stores. Fine, you may be not shopping now, but you'll go back and you'll shop later. But at least those stores can still make some money while going through this odd time. All of us, now is not the time to be like, I'm going to pirate WrestleMania. First of all, it's only $10, you cheap bastards. All right? And I don't care where you are on the poverty line. If you love WrestleMania and you have internet access, you can afford $10 for WrestleMania. As I'm sitting here waving my finger for some reason and bobbing my head. I don't know why. Pirating anyway is a douchebag move. And if you do pirate shows, in my eyes, you're garbage. I don't care. But especially now, in the time that we're in now, for God's sake, spend the $10. Order it on traditional pay-per-view. You haven't ordered a traditional pay-per-view in God knows how long. You can afford the $50 or $60 to do it. Just throw it out there. It's an odd time. Now's not the time to be cheap. Now's not the time to be like, I don't want to pay the man or whatever. That's how we all live. We make money to spend money on stuff we love. So if you're going to watch WrestleMania, for God's sakes, at least this one, don't pirate it. Because you're also getting 2 days worth for $10. I'm just saying. And you can watch it on a normal size television. So, with that being said, it's a weird time. Go out, support those wrestlers, buy the t-shirts, you know what I mean? Buy the 8x10s from online. Help these men and these women. As far as WrestleMania weekend, I'm still going to do a live podcast during WrestleMania. Now, I got to figure out which day I'm going to do. But there will be a live podcast. I'm going to figure it out as we get closer, so keep in touch. I'm going to look to try and do this more often. I got all my other podcasts have finally kicked in again, the three of them, the Better Half podcast, the Retro Gamers podcast, and the Yin and the Yang podcast. So there goes all my free time. But I love you guys. I love wrestling. And even if this is once a quarter, once a month, once every big show, I'm still here, and I still love this, and I love doing this, and I love talking about it, and I love connecting with all of you. And we're going to continue to connect, even during these trying times. We are going to connect. We're going to live. We're going to have fun. And with that, folks, thank you very much for tuning in. You can follow me virtually everywhere at MOHR365, MOHR365. And you can also follow on Facebook and on Instagram at Talking More Wrestling. That's MOHR. Talking More Wrestling, MOHR365. Folks, be safe out there. All right. But enjoy both nights of WrestleMania and these empty arena shows. And I'll catch you next time.